Hello, hello. Welcome to our latest panel with the New Haven Pride Center's youth programming. My name is Ala Ashumare. I am going to be your moderator today. I am the youth program officer here at New Haven Pride Center. And I want to thank you so much for joining us on this semi-beautiful snowy day. To participate in this love letter to trans youth. We want to do more than survive. We are joined by two amazing young people. I want to bring them on and allow them to introduce themselves because I would probably just only do a disservice to them. So we are joined by Ava and Adrian. So who wants to go first and introduce yourself? Just tell us your name and your pronouns and we'll get into all the nitty gritty in a little later.
Hi, I'm Ava Gold. My pronouns are she, her.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Adrian Huck, and my pronouns are they, them, and I'm 18 years old. I'm in college now at Tufts, but I graduated from New Haven Public Schools, and I'm an organizer with the New Haven Climate Movement and coordinator with the Climate Health Education Project in New Haven.
Oh, wow. Thank you. And before we continue, I want to let you all know that part of our initiative is to make sure that we identify the people who let us be here and support us. And so our panel today, as well as almost all our panels, are brought to you by the Avangrid Foundation and CT Humanities. So if you're wondering who was responsible for having these amazing young people on the panel, it's Avangrid Foundation and CT Humanities. So make sure you check them out after you check out the New Haven Pride Center. I wanted to share today that our panel is really centered on and focusing on like joy and love and honoring the trans experience and the trans body. I think and know that oftentimes in our queer communities, we talk a lot about like the things that make us sad, the things that make us like the outsiders and everything. And it's the holidays. It's sometimes a really good time for folks, and then sometimes it's a really terrible time for folks. And so I'm hoping that after we're done today, that young folks, queer, trans, or whomever, however they identify, just be young folks, can tune into this and rewatch this again and just maybe get some kind of joy and love and honoring. So our first question was asking folks to, Danita. Hey, Danita, how you doing? And Danita has an amazing comment, and that they love their trans friends. And I love my trans friends. I love all my friends. I love my community. And I never felt so open as I felt since joining and being open and being able to be out and open as a queer person. I probably have never experienced this much joy. And so before we get to like super, super fun stuff, I want to know how you two are doing, Eva and Adrian. Like, how are you doing right now? Like, you know, COVID, homeschooling, like all of that stuff. How are you doing with that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm doing pretty well. I just finished my semester of college. Proud of myself for getting through my first semester of college ever, even though I am remote. So, you know, still here for the rest of the year. But yeah, getting through it. And now I'm on my winter break, which is awesome. And I have all of January. So just starting to get into the first weekend of relaxing. Not fully, but less things on my plate than during the school semester. So.
And Ava, how about you? And what grade are you in, Ava?
I'm in 9th. I'm 15. Let's see. COVID. At the beginning, I definitely was really depressed a lot, not seeing anyone and no social contact whatsoever. We've been home since March. We haven't gone anywhere. We order everything. So I think by now it's sort of just become more of a lifestyle or habit. So it's not as depressing, but you still want some social interaction. So I do FaceTime and call people, which is nice. We visit my grandparents, we'll social distance, or we'll both quarantine to see each other. Homeschooling. I think there's some pros and cons. Pros, you don't have to worry about teasing or stuff like that. And it's definitely you don't have to get up as early. And you can you can wear things more comfortable. And I think cons, you can't really get as much one-on-one help if you need it because they can't really see what you're doing. So that can be a bit stressing or annoying at times. Classes are longer, which is good, but also can be annoying at the same time. So, and then, yeah, we get our break in 3 days. And I just wanted to say when I heard that Adrian, I think, okay, sorry, I usually am like really bad at names, was already on break and got all of January. I don't know if you saw my face, but I was so shocked because I get from Wednesday until January 4th.
Oh, yeah, definitely. This is my first time having a break this long. I remember in high school, middle school, elementary school, that break was really short in winter. It was 1 week. So, yeah. But definitely I feel you on being able to wake up later, you know, wear what you want, like just throw on something for these Zoom calls.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, I like literally, I think I've been through at least 1,000 Zoom calls this year. My job is online, my volunteering is online, my school's online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also a great pro is they can only see from here up, so you can wear blankets on your lap when it gets cold. That's what I do all the time.
Yes, I am I don't lay in the bed too much, but I am like a connoisseur of like warm things because I'm anemic and I'm always cold.
Me too.
So I realized that the other day, Ava. I was like, normally I'll go get my big sweaters and stuff, but I had a blanket on. And I was like, oh, they can't see it, and I was like able to pull it like up to like right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was like
it's great. I remember there was one time I actually brought a blanket to school in person and was just wearing it, and people were staring at me. My teacher came up and said, Ava, people are staring at you. I said, I know, let them stare. I don't care.
I'm warm.
I was comfortable and warm.
That's all that matters.
Exactly.
And so my next question is like, what are y'all watching? Like, what are y'all listening to? Because everything now, I haven't watched this much TV in like years. What are y'all watching? What are y'all doing to like stimulate your brains outside of like Zoom calls?
So we actually just finished Schitt's Creek, which I swear that was one of the best shows ever. I loved it. We've been watching the Great British Baking Show. We just started. We finished season 1. So the person I wanted to win won. So go Nancy. And then we've been watching Nailed It, which is very funny. So it's an amateur baking show where they give them super complicated things to make and they always end up failing. We've actually been really into Monk in the early 2000s.
Yes!
Oh my God. Oh, we've been watching that all the time.
I love Monk.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's so fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And then, let's see, music. I've really just been listening to things that I already know. I haven't really been listening to anything new. So I've been listening to Demi Lovato, some Ariana Grande. Let's see. I listen to country, so Miranda Lambert is also great.
Okay.
So yeah.
And
Cool.
Danita is joining us from Facebook, and Danita also loves to watch Monk too, Ava. And I was trying to talk my partner into watching Monk the other day, but she was like, so I'm gonna just have to put it on and let her watch. Like, come
Well,
in.
I recommend it if you haven't watched it, to anyone who hasn't watched it.
It's amazing. And I have to start
Thumbs
watching
up.
Freak because I don't know if any of you watch The Office, but they're taking The Office off of. I've been like posting about it. I've been like depressed. They're taking The Office off of Netflix the 31st.
Why?
I don't know, because capitalism. I don't know, but
Oh, this
I'm trying
sucks.
to find a new show, so I'm gonna wait until January 1st, and then I'm gonna start watching shit.
Yeah, I was sad when they took Friends off.
Oh, Friends is on Hulu though, which is
We
good.
don't have Hulu. We're like the people who had the box TV and not in less than 2 years ago decided to get a flat screen because one of them broke. We were lucky the TV was in color.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't watch either Friends or The Office, but from what I hear, like those are like their most successful shows. That's really a surprise that they would take those off of Netflix. That's like their most successful thing. So
Yeah, there was
very
one
good.
other one that we were watching a lot from, I think it was from the 70s or 80s. Cheers.
Cheers with Diane and Sam.
Yeah. And they took it off, which I was so sad. And then, oh my God, there was one more. So I love a lot of shows from like the 60s and 70s. So, Bewitched.
Oh, I love Bewitched.
I was watching it on Amazon and it said it was free with ads. So I got up and I just was finished season 2. And when I went to go on to season 3, you have to pay for it. And I said, no. Why?
Capitalism.
So
Adrian,
annoying.
what shows do you watch? And Catherine, we have Catherine joining us also. Sorry, from Facebook, and Catherine is really excited about us watching their generation TV. They're really excited about that too. So, and Catherine says, "Go Ava, go Ava." But Adrian, what shows do you watch? Because you don't watch Friends. I didn't really watch Friends because I was alive in like your age when Friends was on. So like I didn't rewatch Friends, but I didn't watch The Office when it was on TV. So I've only watched it this is the first year I've ever watched it. So I'm like really hurt. But what do you watch, Adrian? Or what are you?
Honestly, I'm definitely not as cultured as either of you. I don't really watch TV, honestly, and not really into many shows. The thing, like, honestly, I don't think I've sat down and watched like cable TV in like, I don't know, a year or something. The few things I do watch are sometimes like on demand. Some of those like baking shows a little bit during Halloween. There's Halloween Wars. I love to watch what people create in like this like 5-hour time slot. There's some really cool things that people make. But honestly, yeah, I don't really watch too many shows, but the things that I do watch, I don't know, I'm just so stuck on the cartoons that I grew up with. So I watch a lot of like rewatch a lot of the Bratz movies, Barbie movies, Strawberry
yes.
Just last night I was watching an old Bratz movie with my sister, and then over the phone we call my cousin and we watch at the same time. So yeah, definitely so many throwback like cartoons that I grew up with. Yeah, and as for music, I'm also listening to a lot of throwbacks. So Nicki Minaj's Pink Print, really, really strong album. a lot of Britney Spears, just getting like in quite a nostalgic mood, and also some of the hip hop from like when I was in middle school. So really a bunch of different genres, but usually like right now, a lot of throwbacks.
Oh yeah, I've been like doing, I don't know, something about I don't know, being in the pandemic or something in the house, like because I watch Teen Titans Go, like, so I am like a super like little big kid adult.
Yeah, me too.
I still watch that stuff too. So like the reason why I'm not watching Teen Titans Go every day is because now I watch The Office every day. But I love cartoons, and like I like Bewitched a lot, and like I Love Lucy. There's a streaming app that you can like just stream I look like all the old shows, and the only thing they show on that channel is just that series. And so I'll watch I Love Lucy like over and over and over and over and over again, because I think like she is like an absolute genius. Still, like her comedy is like so like on point in 2020, and it was like made in like 1950 or something. I don't know, but yeah, so I've been doing a lot of throwbacks too, and it's so funny because you know what we call throwbacks.
Or I've been watching sometimes The Nanny.
Oh, I love The Nanny.
And Fran is in another show now called Happily Divorced, which is so funny as well.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Is that the one where like her when she's still with
her husband turns out gay?
Oh, is that what the father from the first show though? When they were,
I'm not sure.
Okay, something. I think that they were on a show again, together or something. However, that would come out grammatically correct if I was able to.
Yeah, grammar doesn't matter.
Right. Full of oppression. And so, like, speaking of like happiness and joy, TV and those things, like, what other things like are bringing you happiness and joy, whether it's current or in the past, or like, what's like helping you survive and thrive?
So for me, I think just spending time with my family. I know before I was like wishing to spend more time with my family all the time, and now I'm spending time with them basically all the time. But it is sort of nice though too. I think playing with my cat brings me happiness, and then to pass time, which also is really nice. I like doing arts and crafts.
Oh.
Yeah, and then some video games.
What kind of art do you like the most?
Drawing.
Drawing.
I try to copy a lot of Picasso.
Picasso's one of my favorite. Picasso and Frida Kahlo are like some of my favorite painters, and Van Gogh. I found that I was tied. Oh, Carly says that they love us. And Cheryl says me.
I know for a lot of the Picasso, I like the Picasso when he did the naked women.
Oh. Yeah, so Catherine is joining us from Facebook and is a huge sci-fi reader and recommends Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler.
Okay, I like sci-fi too, so maybe I'll read that.
Yeah, you should definitely. I have Octavia Butler. I literally talk about how we're living in an Octavia Butler novel ever since, especially now that the pandemic is hit, but like before the pandemic, I'm just waiting for my superhero powers to like kick in,
So it'll be relatable.
Right. But I definitely, if y'all folks like sci-fi and like emergence and things like that, like things that are like new and just like totally not something that we normalize. Octavia Butler is really an amazing author, and she writes very queer, even if it's not like, oh, this is a queer book. It's like very like I see myself in like so many of her so many of her characters. Oh yes, Catherine. We're gonna have to meet each other in real life, Catherine, because Catherine's pretty dope joining us from Facebook. But so we have Ava likes to draw, Picasso. What other artists are you tapping into? Are you really like connected to, Ava?
Renoir.
Okay.
Van Gogh.
Yes, let's go. We gotta go to the art museum together.
Yes.
I'm gonna contact your mom.
I love art. Like,
we have to like figure out which art museums are doing like virtual tours right now.
Yeah.
I went to the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, and it blew my mind to be like this close to the sunflowers.
Wow.
Yes. And Carle, who is one of our amazing people who often join us, also recommends us to read Octavia Butler because she is very beautiful.
I will write that down. Hold on.
Yes, definitely write it down. If I was closer to my bookshelf, I would grab the cover. Unfortunately, well, you can always buy the book that People Get Ready. But if not, the other place that sells everything in the world has all of her books if you can't find them at People Get Ready or Black-owned bookstores. So what are you, Adrian, what's bringing you joy right now? I mean, you are a climate justice warrior, but what else is bringing you joy and happiness?
So Ava, I'm a little bit jealous that you have a cat because I have been really, really I always wanted a cat, but being like in the house all the time, I love little like furry living things, and I'm always just like looking up photos of different animals. Like every week it's something different I'm fixated on. Like this week it was red pandas, like last week it was like ducks, and I just like love looking up photos of animals. So, and there's nothing outside right now. It's maybe a few birds, like rarely. So I'm just like in a really animal loving mood. So, and I also love sweets and cookies. Like yesterday I was like craving, like Chuck E. Cheese has these cookie pies, and I was like, okay, we gotta go pick up the cookie pie. So we just went into Chuck E. Cheese, ordered it, and came back home. I love chocolate chip cookies. I have a big sweet tooth. So yeah, so I'd say animals, sweets, and also just like in general, like during quarantine, I've noticed that a lot of like my peers have been like changing their pronouns or like coming out, which I think is really dope and also like a testament to who we are when no one else is around or when we don't have to like continuously perform gender. So I thought that was really dope. And just in general, something that brings me joy is seeing, people happy in their identities and their gender expression, especially right now. A lot of this is coming up again on social media, but there's a lot of policing that happens within the trans community on social media, especially with like teenagers and young adults, about like deciding who is an acceptable trans person and who isn't. And that's really toxic and harmful, especially to trans youth. And it just forces like a really binary and medical trans narrative, which, not all of us fit. So I just love seeing, trans young people happy.
Yes, snaps to that. And that actually like is a good segue into like our next question, which is like, who are your supports? Like who has been helping you thrive, and also who helped you to survive? Because those are two very important things, and the reason why you beautiful folks are here on this panel right now.
I think for me, my family has always been there for me, which I am very happy about that and very lucky because I know there's some people who don't have that same experience as me. Mm-hmm. I think friends too. If you find a good group of friends, they'll support you, which is great.
Yeah, that's so lovely, Ava, that you have a great relationship with your family, and I'm happy you're able to spend some more time with them over quarantine. And for me, I think um, some people that support and affirm me. I love my chosen family. They're the sweetest. They're really valuable to me, and especially during high school, that was a pretty rough patch for me during my social transition. And they came through with like gender affirming clothes and came through with like using my pronouns, advocating for me. That was really helpful. And even though we go long periods without talking, I still feel the love and good vibes and good energy from afar. And Allah, you're in my chosen family as well. And even like during high school, I think my teachers were the coolest. I'm still in touch with them. Some of them I have here on Facebook, and they're just like so supportive and proud of all my endeavors, which is really awesome. So, and during high school, they were really good allies to me, advocating for, my name, pronouns, telling other teachers what was up. And yeah, they've been really awesome. So yeah, I think those are just some of the people that have helped me make it this far.
Yeah, I think definitely have to agree with teachers. And yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, Adrian, I remember the first summer I met you, and you knew who you were. It was never you not knowing who you were, but like, you were practicing like standing strong and being affirmed, like affirming your own self in that. And then like by the next summer, I was like, look at them. They're just like running around and owning New Haven and like affirmed in their identity. And it was beautiful and in a way that it was not surprising because of who you were when I first met you. But thank you for allowing me to be in your chosen family, and I love you so much, and I'm so proud of you because you are like getting like more doper like every time I see you. It's like something else that's more dope about you, and I think that you are the ultimate one of the ultimate personifications of what it means to like find and affirm your own self, and like even when you don't gotta like walk around validating everything to everyone. I never saw you angry when you should have been very angry. Which is the ability to grant other people grace in the while you're actively being erased is a gift that I sometimes wish I had, but other times I'll be like, and I asked some folks who are older and who are non-binary or trans to like give me some advice and stuff to share that they kind of wish that it took them a long time. So everyone I asked is 30 or above. And they're non-binary and or trans. Some folks are trans and are in queer relationships. Some folks are trans and are in heterosexual relationships. Some folks are non-binary. And so it's like this really amazing group of people. And my first favorite piece of advice, and I'm going to say that this is my favorite piece of advice for every piece of advice, my phone locked. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, there we go. Advice that they would give other trans and gender non-conforming youth is that you don't owe anyone an explanation for why your gender identity is valid. It's okay if your own perception of your gender changes over time, and if you need to try out different pronouns or names to figure out what feels right. And I thought that was like right along the line of what you were saying. Both you were saying, Ava and Adrian. But as a person who was not trans and who was a cis queer person, yes, but I still hold a lot of privileges in like different communities. For me, that also always made sense to just like, I don't need to make other people validate their identity when I've never had to validate my own. So why would I do that and turn to someone else? And what I hope is in my community that as a person who is an ally to non-binary and trans folks, because I can never understand everything that your lived experience is, but I can try to make sense of it. is that it feels really good when someone's like, oh, actually my pronouns are they, them. And you're not like, what? When did you do that? And you're just like, oh, bet. So them and we was over, that is like one of the best affirmations that I found that you can give someone, even if you're kind of like, well, when did that happen? And you have all these questions. Half of those questions are nosy people questions. And if they really, truly trust you, all those answers come out eventually anyway, because they want to talk to you about it anyway. And so I want to put this question to you, Ava, because you're young, you're 15. And I'm so happy to know that you have been able to be who you are for quite some time. And so I ask, how does that advice of knowing that you don't owe anyone an explanation for who you are and you don't have to validate yourself for who you are. Was that something that you heard when you were very young? Or if not, how did you figure that out on your own?
I think we never really heard that advice just because I was so young and there weren't many people we even knew. I was early in the year of 6 is when we actually went to France and transitioned there for the summer break. And I think when you're younger, you're not as afraid because you don't understand as much, but then at the same time, it's sort of, yeah. So I think I was just spit it out. And I think that I do a lot of panels or other work. And I think saying if there's questions that come up that you don't want to answer, that's great advice for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you for that. And I want to echo what Ava said for anyone who is watching. If someone asks you a question and you don't want to answer it or you don't know yet, don't let anyone pressure you into thinking that you're supposed to know, especially when you're young. I'm old and I still don't know half the stuff that they tell us that we're supposed to know. I'll never know it. I've learned, I'm fine with that. I also found that I have more peace with that, knowing that. So cheat code to adulthood, Adrian, Ava, is we never know what's going on. We just go with the flow. So just go with the flow and do what makes you happy, because you'll spend less time in therapy trying to undo making everyone else happy.
Right. Yeah. I remember someone had told me no one knows what they're doing back when I was like in middle school, and I was like, really? And now, I'm definitely living it. When you're in college, you're like, yep, no one knows what they're doing, but it's okay.
As a 36-year-old woman, I'll see people who are like 50 and 60, and I'm like, so you still don't know? Because when I was 15, you didn't know, and now I'm 30, almost 40, and you still don't know. So apparently, we just never will know. And I can just take all that cis heteronormative pressure off and like put it somewhere over there with capitalism and patriarchy and anti-queerness over there. And Danita agrees with us. Danita is joining us on Facebook. Hey, Danita. And Danita's right there with us. And so my next favorite piece of advice from a trans woman is don't listen to anyone who tries to tell you what your identity should look and feel like. Take the time to step away from transphobic people or comments if you are able to. There's not one way to look trans. Your identity is your own, and your gender expression doesn't have to align to society's standards.
I think that's great advice.
Yes, I think that I want to also say to anyone joining us who is also not trans or non-binary and is queer, or hey, maybe you're a straight cis normative person or whatever, that same advice pertains to you as well. You don't have to be what society says something's supposed to look like.
Mhm.
And but for trans folks and a lot of my youth that I'm with, or my youth that have adopted me, I didn't adopt y'all adopted me. That's the thing that we talk about a lot, is like, forget that whole passability thing, like be who you are, be liberated, you know.
Yeah.
And like, transness doesn't look like what cis heteronormative things look like, unless you identify that that's what you want to look like. But also know that some people's body structures and things like that don't allow you to be the quote unquote, like, you know, white Anglo-Saxon like body type, and it's okay, and there's nothing wrong with you. Rather, there's much more wrong with the standards that we're forcing on people that just, we're not cartoon characters, we're not anime, we're not built
Yeah.
like anime characters, you know. So, and even all those anime characters literally have the same face. I love y'all, but I don't want your face. I want my own face. And so
Loving yourself is way more important than other people loving you.
And what I've noticed is that once you love the heck out of yourself, other people will start loving the heck out of you too. What were you gonna say? And my next favorite advice for trans youth is that you should be given the space to identify your identity, explore your identity, and express your identity however you want to. If you are not allowed that space from your families or your friends, work to find that space within you, and work to find the people who will give you what you need. So that's all about that found family that we were mentioning earlier. Oh, and Carly has an amazing question, and I want to ask that. When it comes to trans youth, what is something that adults don't get that we need to understand? Oh my gosh, yes, please. Thank you, Carly. That's why I love you so much.
So for me, the first thing that comes up when I hear that is that there have been, you know, a lot of new pronouns and new names for identities that probably, you know, didn't exist like 20 years ago. So I think it's important to affirm trans youth no matter what sexuality label, what gender label, what pronouns they use, because there's more than just he, she, or they. And yeah, I think just making space for youth to find themselves, even if it doesn't, you know, if you haven't heard of an identity or label before, you know, it still exists and people identify with it. And, you know, language changes, the definitions of these terms changes with the times, and that's okay. And it still makes it real. And even if it's like some obscure label, it's helping somebody. So it should be worth it and it should be honored. So
Yes, thank you for that, Carly. Ava, do you have anything you want to add to the adults out there?
I'm just gonna say that that was great advice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and another thing, there's like, it's true for some people, but there's like been this phrase that always goes around when it comes to talking about trans folk. That's like someone trapped in the wrong body, but it's kind of outdated, and it's not true for everybody, because, you know, not all trans people will hate their body and feel trapped. You know, I love my body. It's okay. So it kind of also fits into like this kind of medicalized trans narrative. And, you know, not everyone has to hate their body to be trans. Like, that's not a requirement. So I think that's also a term that's got to go.
Right. Yes. So, you know, what I'm hearing is for us old folks, that we need to we just need to let and accept and affirm folks for what they say that they are. So, I've come up across some folks that are queer and my age, and like, they don't understand the mix, right? And I'm like, okay, but like, you're cis and you're het. You don't have to understand it. Just say it. If that's what they want to identify as, you waste and saves a life by not asking a question. or not asking folks to validate themselves. And when you think about it, for older folks, for folks who are not trans, folks who are not non-binary, um, just literally thinking that, yes, the wrong body trope is so old, but literally just thinking that the less I request this person to validate themselves, the more I allow them to actually affirm, and I could be saving their life. You could be the one more person who has invalidated them and pushed someone off an edge, or a ledge rather, as opposed to being that one person, the first person out of a group of people who validated them and saved their lives for another day. And so sometimes that sounds like really big, like, oh, why would you say that? But if you think about it in big terms, if you think about, if I affirm this trans young person, I could be saving their life. And not as some like hero thing that we all like to do, but just a way to give young people, this young person in front of you, a chance that sometimes it doesn't happen in their homes, it doesn't happen at school, it doesn't happen at work. You could be the person to give them that chance. And if you think about it in big ways like that, hopefully some of us could come up off of our BS and take care of our young folks. And Carly, really appreciated your comment, Adrienne, about, this whole I hate myself body, or everyone does not have to be experiencing body dysmorphia to know that who other people named them and what other people told them who they are is actually not right. And
yeah, I was reading. I was going to say, I was reading some more about gender dysphoria and all the debates that are happening with that. And I saw something really cool. It was like this op-ed in some magazine by someone who is trans-binary, who said sometimes, it's less about the push and more about the pull. So it's less about, all the bad things that we feel about ourselves. And for some people, they don't feel the bad. And for some people, they feel that pull towards, what makes them happy and what affirms them. And, there can't be a push without a pull, like those types of things. Like, I like the metaphor that we're kind of like a compass. We go towards, what feels best for us. And sometimes there's not pain in that journey. Sometimes it's just we're drawn towards what makes us more happy. So I think that was a good way to put it, because there's, like I had mentioned before, there's like these subgroups that are coming up, especially that young trans folk are facing on social media. And that's another reason that I think it's important for older people to affirm trans youth, because these social media accounts and subcultures can be really harmful. Like from the outside, it looks like, oh, this is a nice place I can find community. But sometimes it's a place for cyberbullying and for putting people down that, are neurodivergent, are fat, are not white, are not binary. So it's just can be a really toxic space sometimes, where trans people are policing other trans people, and that's not the way it should be. So I think it's important for that support to come from outside the community as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. And if you think about it, very simply, sometimes it's just like allowing a person to just be who they are, and without like, just mind your business. I don't know. I think that is simply just mind your business. I in my 36 years have never met a trans person or a queer person or a non-binary person that ever tried to force anyone else to be what they are. I have met some heterosexual people who have tried to force me to be who they are. And so there's that. I'm not saying anything other than that. I'm just putting that out there. And identifying that that's something that does happen. So my next favorite advice for non-binary, non-gender conforming, and trans young folks is that finding your support network, and that includes allies, and they put it in caps for me. So I think that goes to what, Adrienne, what you were just saying. especially allies. That also includes other LGBT people, and not just trans people, but other people from the rainbow, especially when you don't have a supportive family. And they also said, it sounds cliche, but follow famous trans folks on social media, like Laverne Cox, Chaz Bono, Jazz Jennings, Jamie Clayton. That may help you through the ups and downs of your transition, but also don't post anti-Black and don't participate in the other things that happen outside of our queer community, like racism and things like that. They also talk about those things too. So for those trans folks who are not passable white trans folks, which is a large portion of the community, you also have, famous people to look up to. And so do y'all follow, do either one of you or both of you follow famous people? And if there's people who we did not name, would you mind dropping their names right now?
I follow Jazz Jennings. I think she's been a great role model and great person. She gives great advice, and she's always so positive too, which is very nice.
Mm-hmm. I follow, honestly, I think maybe unconsciously, I make an effort to follow like every single like identity that exists, someone who embodies that. So I have a really, really diverse following list. And so some of the trans people that I follow, one of the main ones, someone that I really look up to is Octavia Butler. And they are probably like the first queer South Asian representation that I came across. And I've learned a lot from their content about the binary and how it relates to race and colonialism. And so they're an artist and also an activist. So their knowledge has been really, and their art has been really valuable to me. And even like just following them, like their existence is so powerful as like a visibly gender nonconforming person. And I think even following them, if you're cis, or even if you're trans or any identity, can help definitely break down the barriers in your mind that you subconsciously have towards gender nonconforming people of color. And they also normalize body hair, which I think is so affirming and has helped me feel more comfortable in my own decisions. So definitely follow them on social media at Octavia Butler.
Yes, we did some work with Alok with the Pride Center. We had some really amazing, we had a really amazing program, and we did spoken word. We had a showcase. Some folks may remember, some folks may not, but I will just say that Alok's work, I'm not a trans person, I'm not non-binary, I am a queer Black woman, and so much of that work was also for me. And so that's the most beautiful thing about our communities, is like when we're really woke, where we create content for us all. And like something for me, which I will admit, I would get very frustrated with people in the queer community. I don't expect straights to behave like, better, right? But like in our own queer community, I get very, very frustrated with people who are not trans and people who are not non-binary when they perpetuate transphobia and just anti-queerness and anti-gay or anti-trans. Like, it's just like literally what's happening when, like when we go outside, they look at us all the same, right? Like it's not, our lived experience, is only better because the world gets to squash trans folks, So like, if you think about it like that, it shouldn't, we should just all be allies. But I will say that some of the work, it's like you want to go and regurgitate to like some other people, like, hey, let's just read this.
Yes, just go through their feed, just read it all.
Give this to you because you're queer, and I think that there's just some internalized stuff that we got to undo. But Yes, Alok is really amazing. And I will say that once I got my advice, I got my advice from everyone that I went and followed all those pages. I was already following Laverne and Chaz because I knew of Chaz Bona was the first trans person like that touches Hollywood that transition, but their transition was not like this like they're quote unquote not beautiful. You know what I mean? They're still a fat man, you know, things like that. So the other parts of like the world and like how people could just absolutely not thrive also came out in another way. So I've been like, I don't know why I do like follow certain people, but I'm like, oh, hey, like I want to know what they're talking about. And I will also say that a lot of the language that I have to affirm and like just be not problematic and not transphobic, I learned from people, social media.
You can learn a lot.
So, you know, that's the plug for people. Yes, Carla, you know, I don't play.
And some more. This is just a few I just remembered. At Chellaman on Instagram. He's a genderqueer artist and he's also deaf. Yeah. And there's also Pink Manta Ray. He is a trans man who stands up for trans youth, especially in sports. And then IMLs is a non-binary musician and their partner Basitcom. So many beautiful, vibrant trans people of color on Instagram. So yeah.
Yes, thank you for that, Adrian. Thank you for that. And I think like actually that goes into my next favorite piece of advice, which is to go after the people and things that you love. Make them your muses and your outlets. Sometimes a lot of people don't do that. And it's important to appreciate the people that and the things that you love in your life. And so what does that mean for both of you? Go after the things and people that you love and that matter to you as a mode of surviving as a trans person in this world.
I mean, the people you love are always going to be the people who support you. I think actually a quote from Schitt's Creek that I loved, and I thought a lot of people want to go back or be near people who were actually really mean to them because they want to prove that they're worth something. And I think you don't have to do that. Just being with people who love you and that you love is enough to know that you are something.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Adrian?
Yeah. So it was, can you repeat the question or the piece of advice again? So I can just take that in.
Yes. Let me go back. Go after the people and the things that you love. Make them your muses and your outlets. Basically go as a trans person. It's important to go after the things that you love and the people that you love. And what does that mean to you? Following them, go after the people and the things that you love as a trans person.
Yeah. So I think this, for me, it's bringing up representation. So like, for example, if you really want to be an educator and you're worried about doing that because you're non-binary and you have to like tell your students your pronouns or that kind of thing, and you don't see that representation, I think it's important to actively seek out people that are like you or have done something similar to what you want to do, because that can show that it's okay to take that leap, that there's already, trailblazers who have done it, and so you can do it. So what that brings up for me is, seek out the representation that you want to see, or in some cases you'll have to be that yourself, and just remember that you're blazing a path that other people can go down, and that's important too. So if there isn't that representation, then it's up to you to go be it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. And I will say, as again, not a non-binary or a trans person, but a queer Black woman who is differently abled, and yes, Alyssa, we share and stream on Twitch and StreamYard and Facebook, as well as YouTube. That I didn't, and becoming an organizer, you know, like it was a couple of years ago, I would never have thought that I've been able to do the stuff that I've done in the last 3 years. But I started like following people who did this one thing that I liked, and this one thing, and then this one thing, and then I became the personification of those 3 things combined, and then I added my own magic in there. So thank you for that advice, because I, you know, sometimes, you know, like if you want to be a teacher and you don't know and you're non-binary, like, you know, find non-binary activists and organizers and like follow them, and then follow anti-racist teachers who are also practice anti-bias practices, right? And then combine them and then add your magic, and then you trailblaze your own path, and you get to stay in your own lane, right? As they say, like, stay in your lane. Like, well, I made it, you know, this is my lane, but I also can invite other people into my lane because I made it, you know? So as a young person and young people who are wanting to do more than just survive, but looking at what it means to thrive in a world that each one of our identities on this panel, they don't want us to thrive, right? And they don't want us to survive, is really, and it sounds cliche, and it is also always easier said than done, but speak your truth. And, you know, sometimes you can't speak it in the beginning. Write your truth, sing your truth, paint your truth, figure out how to get it out until you can be affirmed and have, sometimes it's just one person you need to support you. And we're going to be closing soon. And so I want to ask Adrian and Ava, do either one of you have any advice that you would like to give to our adults and or young folks watching our panel today?
Don't be afraid to speak up for what you believe in and be yourself.
Yeah, I would say be unapologetically you. More people are impacted by that than you think. You're paving the way. Other people are going to see that and recognize that. Queer or not queer, you're making the world a better place by being authentically you. Yeah, so always be genuine and authentic, because it's not only helping yourself, but all the people around you are seeing you thrive, and knowing that it's possible, and seeing just a lovely person representing an identity that they may or may not know. So yeah, always be you. You're helping a lot of people.
Yes. Yes. And my advice is for folks who are, and I want to give advice specifically to folks who are not trans and who are not binary, who seek to become an ally, or seek to support your children or your students or just the young folks that are around you. Even when you don't understand what's happening for that young person, they know what they're talking about themselves. And even if they can't articulate it properly to you, whatever they're articulating, support them. And if they don't have all the words, be with them and until they get all the words. Thank you so much. Again, we want to thank our sponsors, Avon Grid Foundation, as well as CT Humanities. Please contact me at youth@newhavenpridecenter.org if you want to talk to me. You can also just email us at info@newhavenpridecenter.org. And follow us at youth@NHPC on Instagram. We have a Twitch account, YouTube. Locate us. We are here. We are queer, and we ain't going nowhere. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me, and thank
Great
you
to
for
meet
having
you.
us.
Thank you. And you will see each one of these beautiful, amazing people really soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.